had received the birthright of the firstborn, and then he had tricked his father to not only, because he already had the birthright of the firstborn, he also wanted the blessing that was Isaac had intended for Esau. So he tricks his father and he gets that. Because of that, Esau is obviously quite mad. He tells his mom that, as soon as Isaac dies, he's gonna have his revenge. So his mother tells him that, he's got to go. But not only that, but Isaac also brings him in and says, hey, I don't want you to marry the local Canaanite women. I want you to go back to Haran, to our family, to your mother's family, and find a wife. So Jacob listens to his mother and his father, and he leaves. And let's put this in context of what Jacob is leaving. He's leaving excuse me. He's leaving everyone he knows. He's leaving a substantial wealth. And he's traveling over 450 miles to see people he's never seen, to find a wife. So it's nothing small. He's out on his own, probably for the first time ever. So we read that he comes to a place that seems fit for him to stay the night. Now I'm going to say it felt like a safe place, because let's remember, he's all alone. It'd be easy for someone to overtake him and take everything he had, even his life. So he finds a place that's fitting and he lays down for the night. And it says that he found a rock to lay his head on. Now that doesn't sound very comfortable for me, but I guess for Jacob it was okay. He must have been pretty tired. It says, as he slept, he had a dream. And in this dream, he saw a ladder that extended all the way to heaven. And at the top of the ladder stood God. And there were angels coming up and down the ladder. We renamed it in our society the stairway to heaven, but it wasn't actually a stairway. It says in the Bible that it was a ladder. Jesus actually tells us in the book of John that he is that ladder. It says that angels ascend and descend upon him, meaning I am Jacob's ladder. So obviously the ladder signifies the connection between earth and heaven, the one ladder, Jesus Christ. It also signifies that God is active in our lives. He doesn't just leave us to our own devices. So Jacob wakes up and says, surely God is in this place with me, and I didn't even know it. He is with me, and I didn't even know it. Why is that important? Jacob had to really feel all alone. That first night was probably pretty tough. I bet he, even though I said he was tired and went to sleep on a pillow, I bet it took him a minute or an hour or so to fall asleep. We don't read that, but Jacob's a man just like me. I remember the first time I left home. all by myself. There's no one there to support me. It was a scary feeling. And I didn't just, drift off to sleep. You leave what you feel like the only protection that you have. The protection of your home and your family. But what God was telling Jacob through that ladder was, you're not alone. I'm here and I'm working actively. That's the other thing, actively working. It didn't say, he saw one angel go up and then a little later another. No, it said angels were constantly going back and forth from heaven to earth. What does that signify to me is they're actively participating in our lives. God is actively participating. And what does Jacob say when he wakes up? Surely God was in this place with me and I didn't even know it. How many times do we feel like we're all alone and nobody's with us? And not realize that, God is with us the whole time. He didn't let that's what Jesus says. I'll never leave you or forsake you. Once you're mine, you're mine. And Jesus keeps his promises. I will never leave you nor forsake you. What does he say? Go preach the gospel to the ends of the earth, and I will be with you always. Those are promises that we need to remember. And we don't need to forget our promises just because we're in the midst of problems. And that's easy to say when we're not in the midst of a problem. But there's a reason that God gives us the promises in the good times. We get the promises in the good times so that when the problems arise, we can rest on the promises and not be shaken. Jacob says, surely God was with me in this place, and I didn't even know it. How awesome is this place? Surely this is the gateway to heaven, the gateway to God. And he renames the place Bethel, which is a place of worship. And he puts a pillar there because he didn't yet know how to build an altar. Just remember, he was in a pagan world, and he was still had pagan in his mind. He hadn't yet graduated out of that mindset. God hadn't changed him yet. Obviously, through this, we know God's working on him. But he hadn't changed Jacob yet. So Jacob still had the old mindset. But then what does he say? He makes a vow to God and says, if God will be with me through this, and he will give me food and raiment. Jacob didn't ask for wealth or anything else. He asked for food and raiment. If he will give me what I need, and he will bring me back. Because of the other part I skipped is while Jacob was having the dream about the ladder, God restated the covenant that he had with Abraham and Isaac. And during that he said, I am the Father. I am the Lord of your father, Abraham, and your father, Isaac. There's a key thing that I take away from that again is that God said, I am the Lord of your father, Abraham. Abraham was dead. But God didn't speak of him in past tense. I am the Lord of your father, Abraham. There is an eternal connotation to that. That Abraham still is. Not that he was, he is. So, he restates the covenant. I'm going to give you all this land. Your descendants will be as numerous as the stars. The world will be blessed through your descendants. So he restates the covenant. And then, once Jacob wakes up, he makes a vow and says, you know what, basically, if you keep that covenant, if you give me what I need and you bring me back to this land that you promised me, the land of my father, then you will be my God. And I will return to this place and give you a tenth of everything that I have. Now, it sounds like when you first read that Jacob's making a deal. And I think we have that mindset because we think of Jacob as the deceiver and he earns that reputation. But that's not what he's saying. He's saying, you know what, if you're going to fulfill your covenant with me, then I'm going to make a vow and we're going to come together. Now, it sounds like we're cutting a deal here, making a contract, and we really are. We're making a binding contract. It's no different than what we do today. We don't think of it that way because we don't want to be bound by it. But the truth is, when I accepted the new covenant of Jesus Christ, what I'm saying is I'm going to make you Lord of my life, which means I'm not going to make a decision that you're not in it. Now, we don't like that. We don't like to look at it that way, but that's what it is. That vow was supposed to be reciprocated just like Jacob reciprocated the covenant that God had made with him. And my vow is to be, you know what, I don't make a decision that Jesus Christ is not in the center of. Do I break that vow? Unfortunately, yes, I do. But the vow is still there. We have a role to play in this. We don't have a role to play in our salvation. There's nothing we can do to earn that. Just like there was nothing Jacob could do to earn God's favor. God favored him because God favored him. And he understood the long-term picture. He understood that Jesus Christ was going to come out of the lineage of Jacob. But there was nothing Jacob had done to earn that. Just like there's nothing that Kevin has done to earn the salvation that God has given him. But on that same token, I also have the vow to make decisions based on the kingdom. Not my kingdom, his kingdom. So let's remember in our, for lack of a better term, our binding contract. God's keeping his end of it. Are we keeping ours? I hope you are. I hope you're doing better than I am. And I hope and I pray that I do better. Because here's the great part. Not because I have to, but because he's worthy. He's worthy of me keeping my end of the bargain. He's going to love me either way. I'm going to have my salvation either way. But the fruit of the Spirit can't be displayed if I'm making decisions based on Kevin. Let's strive to worship him today. And the greatest act of worship is obedience. God bless you. I hope you have a great day.